Thank you so much for joining me today. This is this gorgeous unicorn card that we are going to be creating. I'm going to start off with a 110 pound Nina Solar White card base. And then I have this unicorn stamp set here, which I will link down below in case you are interested. Now it does have that cute rainbow and all of those stamps fit inside that other rainbow to the left. However, today I am just going to be using the actual unicorn. I have cut a piece of scrap paper with that cloud die, and again I will link anything I can find down below in the description box. And I'm just using some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink to create some clouds in the sky. I use both sides of the piece of paper to kind of change up the clouds. This doesn't have to be perfect because a lot of it is going to end up being covered, but it just adds a little bit of something to the background so it's not quite so empty and white. I have some stacking circle dies here. Again, these ones are from Aliexpress, and I'm just going to choose a couple, about I think maybe 4 or 5, that will create my rainbow. Now I am using circles. You may have something in your stash that you can use already that is actually purpose built for rainbows, but I don't, so I'm going to use circles, which will work perfectly fine. I'm going to run these through with some 80 pound Nina paper, and you can see it gives me all these lovely circles. I am going to add some ink and color these up, and that will create my rainbow. What I am going to do is cut these in half. I guess this technically gives me 2 rainbows, and I probably could have kept them together, but you know, neither here nor there. This is the candied apple and then spiced marmalade. I'm just going through which with the colours that I have available to me, and I quite like using the Distress Oxides. I have kind of sorted myself a rainbow that I use often, this colour combination, which I like. It's very nice and bright and vibrant, but definitely use whatever you have, or even more simple, you could just use coloured papers to start with and you wouldn't have to do any inking at all. I'm going to use the same cloud die from before because I want some clouds that my unicorn is going to come out of. So I have cut some of those and those little clouds and raindrops to the right. I don't actually end up using those, but I thought I was going to at the time. Now I have stamped out my unicorn in some versafine onyx black ink, and I am using some clear embossing powder to emboss it, and that way I am able to use watercolors to color it in straight away and the colors won't mix all together. So it's kind of just a little insurance policy for me. I am using exactly the same inks that I used for the rainbow, and that is what I'm going to color my unicorn with. I am adding some spun sugar, which is a really light pink color, and I'm going to zoom in here in a second just so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. It's not really a whole lot of color, and you could definitely use other mediums other than this ink, but I had these out on my table so it seemed nice and easy, and I'm just going down the mane of the unicorn and using all those rainbow colors and a paintbrush, and I have a little bit of water squirted up the top there that I am using with the ink. And then the tail, I decided to go for the reds, oranges and yellows, just because there was only 3 wee kind of sections to it. And then just to kind of make the unicorn stand out a little bit, I'm going to use some of that spun sugar and just kind of work a little bit of his hooves and kind of adding a little bit of color to his back. So I will water it down and not make it quite so obvious, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more variation in the color. And that is pretty much my unicorn finished. I am going to let that dry and set it aside and fussy cut it. I didn't include the fussy cutting in the video, but what I am going to include is you should always take a black marker pen and go around the outside of your image. Always work from the back in case you slip and you don't want to get marker on the front of your image, but this makes such a big difference when you fussy cut something, in particular when you've stamped it in black. It just finishes it off much nicer. It looks much better. It's the small details that sometimes matter. So there is my unicorn. I'm going to pop him aside because he is pretty much done and dusted for now, but I like the way that he looks. He turned out pretty good. So now we are just going to move on to putting together the card. So I'm just collecting up all my pieces. I cut one of these clouds originally, but I actually ended up needing to go back and cut 3 of them. I was going to have 2, and then I decided I definitely needed a third. So you'll see that in a minute. But here I am just kind of seeing how far up I want the rainbow to go. And this is where I kind of realized that I need at least a couple. Now, I have just used 1 cloud die. I think 3 come in the set that I have. But I just used 1 because I was being lazy. So I want to kind of shift it around and make sure there's some variation and it's not just the same cloud pattern repeating. This is just a really nice, simple happy birthday stamp. I purchased this from Ali as well. And I'm going to stamp it in that same versafine onyx black ink. So also I need to put my rainbow together. Now, I had a little helper beside me who had kindly helped herself, her gorgeous self, to using some of my rainbow colors. She said because they look so pretty. So you'll actually notice here on the left of the screen that I had to die cut some more circles and ink them up. So they just haven't been cut in half yet, but they went through exactly the same process as before. And I have just cut a very, very rough wee circle out of copy paper and added some double-sided tape down, and that way my rainbow can kind of be put together before I need to put it onto my background, because I really don't want to ruin my background at this point. Now I'm going to add some glitter from a clear glitter pen. The one thing I do need to be careful of here is because I've used the oxide inks, I need to kind of just wipe it off at the end of each color, and I'm just doing color by color. Otherwise, the oxides react with water and I would end up blending the colors, which is not what I want. I'm going to put the rainbow down flat because the other parts of the card will be popped up, and I don't need this one to be popped up. There's going to be plenty of dimension. If I had thought about it, I probably could have just left the whole circle of colors, and that way I wouldn't have had to worry about where the clouds are. But yeah, it doesn't really matter, neither here nor there. This is the first cloud, which is going to go down flat, and you can see I want to kind of use the left-hand side of this cloud because I have stamped the other cloud, the one that is stamped. I'm going to be using the right-hand side of that one. So as I said, I want to have variation in the clouds. I don't just want to have them repeated. Otherwise, it kind of, yeah, doesn't look quite right. I think for that middle layer there, I actually went and die cut one of the other cloud shapes just so that I wouldn't have everything looking the same. And this very front one, I'm going to pop up with some of Alina's foam tape, which again, I will link down below. And as I said, I'm using the kind of right-hand side this time, and that one just pops nicely on in the corner. I'm going to use some of, again, this is Alina's foam tape. This is the really skinny one though, which I love. And I'm going to pop up my unicorn using this. This is kind of the last, one of the last things I do to this card. In a minute, I am going to do one last thing though. I'm going to pop the unicorn up, and this card does look super cute here. You could also finish the card here, but I did decide to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to the unicorn, which is fine. It's a clear glitter. Then I decided to go a little bit over the top. Now I have all these beautiful gems from Alina, and I just thought, all right, I'll just put them on. I'll just sit them there and see what I think. So I added some blue little gems to the sky, and then I added some sort of silvery and some clear little gems to the clouds. And I actually ended up really liking it. I mean, it's a unicorn card. If you can't go over the top on a unicorn card, when can you? So I have gone all out, and I'm just going to adhere some of these on with this little glue bottle, and in the glue bottle is some Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. I just use a syringe to pop the glue in the bottles that I buy. Then I thought I was going to leave the sky without them because it did seem over the top, but it didn't seem right when I took the sequins off. It felt like I needed them back. So anyway, I did go all out. I love how this card ended up. And yeah, I will probably do something like this again, I think. I wouldn't be afraid to give it another go. Thank you so much for joining me if you've made it this far. I so appreciate you guys watching and giving me thumbs up and lovely comments. It means a lot to me. I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.